The Knicks beat the tanking Sixers like you'd expect them to, but more importantly, we finally got that big Jalen Brunson injury update that we've been waiting for right now on Locked On Knicks.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, welcome in to Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. I'm Alex Wolf. I'm editor-in-chief of Knicks site The Strickland, which you can find at thestrick.land, your best Knicks website on the interwebs. And today, we are going to be talking about a big Knicks win, 105-91 over the Philadelphia 76ers. But more importantly, the big Jalen Brunson injury update that you've been waiting for. We have a potential return date. So I'm going to get into that in just a moment. But first, I want to thank you all for making Locked On Knicks your first listen today and every day, whether you're checking us out on your favorite podcast platform or taking in the sights and sounds on YouTube. We appreciate you making us part of your daily routine. Make sure you hit that auto download function on your favorite podcast app or the notification bell on YouTube so you never miss an episode. And if that's not enough for you, your favorite podcast now has a newsletter introducing the Locked On Knicks Daily Newsletter. One stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com, and start your day with the all-new free Locked On Knicks newsletter. So let's get right into it. The Knicks win 105-91 over the Sixers, but the more important thing came after the game. So big news that we've all been waiting for. I'm not quite sure who put this on the airwaves first between our buddies, two friends of the show, Ian Begley of SNY, CP the franchise of Knicks Fan TV. Both guys put some news out there on the airwaves. I saw their clips and when they were put up. I didn't see the exact timestamps of when they were said on air. So, whatever. We're going to give them a tie here. But I'll go with Ian Begley first, who said on the injury front, Jalen Brunson's still working his way back. I think it's a long shot for him to play at Cleveland the next game. But then went on to say, I think based on the trajectory and everything that's gone on here, the weekend is a realistic landing spot for Brunson and his return. That Atlanta game, that Phoenix game, I think if everything continues at pace with his rehab, that's the place where you're looking for Brunson to be back on the court here. Then CP just went right out with it, said if all goes well, the target date for return is this Sunday at home against the Phoenix Suns. So it's a back-to-back games against Atlanta and then against the Suns. So CP seems to think that the later date will be the one that Brunson is going to target. Seems reasonable that he would probably avoid a back-to-back when he first gets back. So I do think one of those two games will be the one. But, I don't know if you would want to doom Jalen Brunson to having to deal with Dyson Daniels, his first game back from a relatively major injury or a major ankle sprain, at least for him. He's missed more time with a sprain than we typically are used to seeing Brunson miss with this particular injury. So, I don't think you would want to throw him right out there, throw him to the wolves, so to speak, against Dyson Daniels. But what's the significance of this? Why is Brunson even targeting getting back at all? I mean, there is the obvious of wanting to get tuned up for the playoffs and not coming in cold. But there's something to be said that like if this was a different scenario, maybe he just comes back for the final 2-3 games, something like that, and just gets a little bit of a tune up for the playoffs, takes that little bit of extra rest. But as it stands right now, Brunson has played in 61 games this season. So to qualify for the NBA awards now, he needs to play in at least 4 more games to reach 65 games. Now, generally, he would need to play at least 20 minutes in each game, but the NBA does give you a little bit of I guess a little bit of grace, you would call it. I don't know. So this was the same situation that Dante DiVincenzo ran into last year, kind of, for not being able to be considered for most improved player. You have to play in at least 20 minutes in all of your games except for 2. So if you can play at least 15 minutes in 2 games, then you're good. So Brunson has not used any of his 15-minute games yet. He's played in at least 22 minutes every single game that he's appeared in so far this year. So if the Knicks do, and I doubt that this is going to be the case, knowing Tibbs and knowing Brunson, who, if he's ready to play, he pretty much is like, if I'm good to get on the court, I'm good to play 30 plus minutes for the most part. So I doubt they use these, but Brunson has not used any of his 15-minute games yet. So he can have 2 games in these final 4 that he needs to play where he could play just like 15 minutes if they want to ease him along. Again, I don't think particularly likely, but it's good to know that the option is there. So if he does come back against Phoenix, like CP said, although I think no matter what, whether he comes back against Atlanta or Phoenix, he has the potential to um, appear in 5 more games because I don't think that he's going to play the back-to-back on his first games back, like I said. So I think it's probably likely that what CP said comes to pass, that he comes back against Phoenix, which gives him 5 games left in the season. There would be one more back-to-back right towards the end of the season that he could skip if he wanted to, which would be next Thursday at Detroit and next Friday at home versus Cleveland. So, he's could kind of make his choice there. Do I want to face Detroit? Do I want to face Cleveland? Probably would choose the home game against Cleveland. But yeah, either way, he gets that option to not have to play both of those games, which is good. So he can still take the back-to-backs off, not play any back-to-backs down the stretch of the season, and still get 4 games in and still apply for the NBA awards. But yeah, it seems pretty strategic. He's going to be back just in time to get his All NBA nod, hopefully, and possibly the NBA Clutch Player of the Year. I guess easy to lose sight of the fact that, I mean, he was the clutchest player in the NBA for most of the season, and particularly right before he went down. I mean, he was just carrying the Knicks to wins game after game in the fourth quarter. But more importantly, I think this gives him, a little more of a runway. Maybe it's a blessing in disguise a bit. I mentioned a second ago, like, why come back? And the obvious answer, like, why come back this early? And the obvious answer is just to get the, his accolades. Like, he deserves them. So if he can get back a couple games earlier than he potentially could to, get the All NBA nod, get the, the clutch player, like, he deserves everything he gets. He's a phenomenal player, and it would be a shame if he did miss out on those awards because he did have a season worthy of it. But I think the other thing, he gets to face some kind of stiff competition. Phoenix and Brooklyn, pretty easy games to bookend his potential 5 games with, or more than likely 4 games. But the Boston, Detroit, Cleveland in the middle, those are all tough teams. Those are all teams the Knicks might have to face in the playoffs, particularly Boston. I think the Knicks should come out and, maybe Boston's going to be resting some guys, so they might not be full strength. But I think even against a depleted Boston team, just getting a win and getting a win on the ledger against them this year could be important psyche-wise for the Knicks. So, good that Brunson will get to be back against, Boston, and potentially able to notch a win against them. Again, not a guarantee. I mean, Boston might still just win anyway, but we'll see with that. But really, I think just getting some more reps against the top competition and, getting himself ready in that way will be very important. Seems less likely that they're going to face Detroit in the playoffs now. It's seeming more like, I mean, things can change. It's only a 1-game gap, but based off the situation with Lillard and everything else, it seems like more than likely the Knicks will probably face Milwaukee unless Detroit has a really rough week here. So if that's the case, then, maybe the Detroit game becomes a little less of a need for Brunson to be in, and you focus more in on the Boston game and the Cleveland game as teams that they could potentially face further down the line in the playoffs. But we'll see what they do there. But another important thing is going to be seeing how these new versions of guys that have kind of emerged with Brunson out fare with Brunson on the court again. Like, what will happen with OG? What will happen with Mikal Bridges? What will happen with Josh Hart or Cat even? Like, Cat has managed to kind of be more featured in the offense again and kind of find himself in that way with Brunson out because it was a necessity. So we'll see when Brunson gets back. I think that having this many games too will be beneficial for that. Get him in 4 games, get him able to work with his teammates and figure these things out and hopefully find the best version of themselves right before the playoffs and then hit the ground running and have a great first round series. So we'll see what ends up happening there. I do want to talk about the game that was played though. The Knicks 105-91 over the Sixers. OG Anunoby had a really good game. Mitchell Robinson had his best game since coming back. Landry Shamet went off again, more than he has at any point this season so far. So there's still a lot to talk about when I get back into Locked On Knicks. But first, I want to let you all know about our friends over at FanDuel. And March Madness is still here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's 200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories, and even who's cutting down the nets. And I'm fully on board with betting March Madness. I think it's the most fun time to bet games. Obviously, been a crazy first few weekends of play. We got the Final Four coming up, and then the championship game. Obviously, no bigger time to get in on it than that. I've with the tournament games going on like all weekend. For the Final Four, it gives you a lot of fun stuff to do. Obviously, Final Four time. It's going to be Saturday and then Monday. So can spice up your Saturday and then definitely spice up your Monday. After a hard day at work, come home, watch that national championship game, get some action on FanDuel. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament. All right, and I'm back in. Let's talk through this Knicks win over the Sixers, 105-91. So there was no cat in this game, as well as Jalen Brunson, obviously, as well as Deuce McBride, and as well as Cameron Payne. So the Knicks, feeling the injury bug a little bit in this game. But to be fair, they were facing a team that is maybe, I wouldn't say the number one injury bug team because I think that belongs to the Mavericks, but probably the solid number 2 most injury bitten team this year. So if you were ever going to have Cat take what seemed like kind of a maintenance day for his knee, today was probably the day. And this game was probably the game. And Mitch draws the start in this one and has a phenomenal game. And I'm going to talk about him in a moment. But the Knicks got out to double digits, a double-digit lead fairly early. They kept the Sixers there for most of the game. Philly narrowed it to 5 points, a 5-point deficit in the third quarter. It didn't seem like a panic scenario, though. It seemed obvious that the Knicks had kind of just let their foot off the gas, and then once they put their foot back on the gas, they put the Sixers away. It was not a scary scenario at all. Not anything where I was going like, oh, geez, are they gonna blow this game? No, there was nothing to that effect. It was just a pretty chill game, all things considered. It seemed like the Knicks were able to just try as much as they wanted to get this one done. But OG Anunoby certainly tried real hard. 27 points, 5 boards, 2 steals, 7 of 16 from the floor. Only shot 2 of 9 from 3. So once again, prolific scoring game without shooting that well from 3, and that's because he goes 11 of 13 from the free throw line. Just continuing to bulldoze his way to the hoop to generate these opportunities for himself to get fouled. And he's getting calls now too. He's kind of getting like a star whistle right now, which is great. I think he's earned it because you have to kind of go in there, get yourself beat up a bit. I mean, he's protecting the ball well on his way in, which I think is an improvement. I think he's learning to pick his dribble up a little earlier, whereas before, we would see him kind of keep his dribble going a little too long before gathering the ball and, kind of protecting it. Like in the NBA, you almost, if you're driving in and you're trying to potentially draw a foul and finish through contact and whatever, you have to kind of protect the ball almost like a running back in football. Like once you gather your dribble, keep that thing tight, keep both hands on it, get in there and then finish the layup or at least get an attempt up so you can generate those free throws. And I think that OG has been doing a really good job of that lately. On top of the fact that he's just, I've mentioned this a couple times on the show recently, but he's just kind of finally figured out just how large he is and how strong he is compared to his contemporaries, in any given game, and has realized like I could just throw my shoulder into guys and clear space, and they're gonna foul me because that's the only way you can attempt to stop what I'm doing. And then, he's getting better about generating those free throw opportunities now too. But he does flash the crazy athleticism every once in a while too. He had a crazy dunk for his final field goal with about 9 minutes left in the game. He got a look in transition, took a bump, and somehow still managed to get up, threw it down, and his body was like curled into like a C shape in the air almost. It was like visually kind of crazy to look at. Like he went up for, and it looked honestly like really unsafe. Like thank goodness, like this is the other thing I've noticed with him recently. Anytime he goes up for a dunk, he does hold on for an extra second on the rim, and not in a showboaty way to potentially get himself teed up or whatever, but just in a way to like protect his body, make sure he has a soft landing, and kind of did that with this one. Went up for a one-handed dunk, had a ton of momentum, which then kind of curled his body up as he's going around on the hoop, and then held on to the hoop an extra second, was able to contort his body in air. And even though it looked like he was potentially going to like overshoot and like pendulum and end up like falling on his butt or something, somehow manages to contort his body in air and land right on his 2 feet, totally unscathed, kind of like a superhero landing there. But yeah, he did fantastic with that play. It got everybody going. It got the whole bench going for sure. Everybody was freaking out at that one. Cat was up and was like going crazy at it. Hart was going crazy. So that was a fun moment, and just the latest show of OG's athleticism. But I was talking about it a little bit in the last segment, but I think that OG's definitely been the biggest revelation in Brunson's stead. It's going to be really interesting to see how this all translates with Brunson back. But I think kind of the one obvious thing right now is that this guy needs to be touching the ball more. Like you don't want to lose this hot streak that he's on. This is the sort of hot streak. Honestly, it's reminiscent of like when Hart and DiVincenzo were playing so well last year, and they were able to kind of find that when Brunson was out for that bit with that knee scare last year, and then carry that into the playoffs. Like I think you want to do the same with OG right now. You don't want to let this fire go out. You want to just keep stoking it. Like get the little fire blower out, and start blowing on the fire, and keeping it nice and hot for the playoffs. Because if OG rolls into the playoffs playing this well, that he's playing like a third star right now. Like he's playing like the guy that could be the tertiary piece. And Mikal Bridges on a lot of nights is playing that way too. So like you kind of don't want to lose that with either of these guys, but especially OG, especially with this getting downhill and generating free throws. That's so valuable during the playoffs too. Like because he's strong enough to handle playoff physicality and then still get up those attempts. I mean, I think that's going to be key for the Knicks. He also got after Grimes big time in this game. Quentin Grimes, that is. Not that I should need to introduce him, former Knick, but for those that haven't been paying attention to his post-Knicks career, he's been having just a crazy hot streak with Philly since getting traded there at the trade deadline. He's just, I mean, talk about a tumultuous number of months here since he got traded from the Knicks last year. He's now on his third different team since being on the Knicks last season. But he's been playing really well, and OG, I think more than anybody, made sure that Grimes was not going to have his MSG moment on his hot streak right now. And Grimes, I didn't even look at what the final stats were for him. Let's take a quick look here. I just know he did not do particularly well in this game. He ended shooting 8 of 18, 1 of 6 from 3, did get 9 of 10 attempts from the free throw line, and did have 26 points. But I mean, he's been playing at a higher level than that recently. So the fact that he was able to be held in check, especially with OG on him, spoke to the effort that OG put in. But another guy that put in a huge effort, Mitchell Robinson, who had his best game since coming back from his injury, 14 points and 14 boards. So I want to talk about him in just a moment, plus Landry Shamet going crazy, DeLon Wright with another good game, Precious Achiuwa with maybe not so good of a game. But he did all right, and just everybody else will housekeep the rest of the way through this game when we get back in to Locked On Knicks. But first, I got to let you know about 5 Hour Energy. Daylight savings snuck up on us again. And if you're feeling the lost hour of sleep, 5 Hour Energy has your back. The extra sunshine means more time for fun, but sometimes you need a little boost to power through. So whether you're staying up late watching the NCAA tournament, squeezing in around a golf after work, or just trying to keep up with your busy day, 5 Hour Energy gives you that quick, refreshing pick me up whenever you need it. And I'm telling you, I mean, the basketball, watching basketball part, sure, it's great, but with longer days, I love getting outside for a hike or a run or playing some basketball. I am very much looking forward to having the weather be just nice enough. Give me like some consistent 65 out there. I'm going to be playing basketball late into the night. Tropical Burst is my go-to for a quick boost when I need a burst on the court. You know what I mean? So head to 5hourenergy.com to find over 15 flavors to choose from, including watermelon, blue raspberry, and peach mango. You can even build your own 12-pack or 24-pack delivered right to your door. Need one now? Grab a 5 Hour Energy shot at your local grocery or convenience store. They're everywhere. Stock up today and stay energized. All right, I'm back in to finish talking through this win over the Sixers. Pretty predictable, 105-91. Again, if the Knicks had lost this game, it would be like, dude, what are you guys doing? I mean, we'd be right back where we were a week and change ago, where they lost to the two very poor teams, and it just had you shaking your head and going like, come on, guys, you can't beat these guys. The Sixers would have been whole different story. I mean, I feel like the Sixers are actively trying to lose the rest of the games this season because they want to hold on to their draft pick. And if their pick falls top six, they get a lottery pick. If it falls outside the top six, which would be hilarious, they lose their pick to the Thunder, which uh, is also concerning. I don't know. This seems like a lose-lose situation for the Knicks. So, either the best team on the other side, that would probably be the team standing in the way of them potentially winning a championship, and the Thunder in the next few years gets another top six pick, or sorry, top 14 pick or whatever, or the Sixers get a top six pick and add a really good player in division, but whatever. Anyway, we won't dwell on that. Let's talk about Mitchell Robinson. 14 points, 14 boards, 7 and 7. So he had seven of them offensive, seven of them defensive, 2 blocks and a steal in just 21 minutes, filling in for Cat starting. And I thought this was some vintage Mitch action. It was his 27th birthday, which is crazy. Time flies. I mean, shout out to Mitch, man. He spent his pretty much whole adult life as a New York Knick. It's crazy seeing him grow up. Also, I don't know how it didn't register with me before. Like, clearly, I've been through like 7 Mitch birthdays. Maybe the Knicks just haven't played on April 1st enough, but didn't register with me that April 1st was his birthday. But definitely makes sense that Mitch is a silly dude when you realize that he was born on April Fool's Day. But he wasn't fooling in this game. He had a couple powerful dunks early on, had a nice putback off an O board, and then a little wraparound pass from DeLon Wright. That was a really nice look from DeLon. He also hit him for another one later on, had a nice one where he kind of ran a pick and roll with Mitch, and the Sixers tried to trap him, but weren't successful, and he was able to hit Mitch for a nice easy dunk there. But easily the best make of the night for Mitch. He had a transition look where he took a steal, dribbled the whole back half of the court, drove in. A Sixers defender came to meet him towards the hoop, and then Mitch hit him with like kind of a Euro step. It was I don't know if I would quite call it a Euro, maybe a Atlantic Ocean step. I don't know. He didn't quite make it to Europe, but hit him with like a little stutter step kind of, and then went up for a two-handed dunk. Really nice stuff. I mean, this was probably the closest that we ever will get to summer recorded on iPhone mixtape Mitch in a real NBA game. So that was cool. He always has at least a couple times every year where he makes you go, oh wow, I didn't know that Mitch was quite capable of that. And he's I think it's kind of just the epitome of him being in such good shape right now, like where you see him pull something like this off and you go, that doesn't seem unreasonable. Like other times in Mitch's career, if he'd pulled that move off, I would have gone like, oh, get after a big fella. But this one, not so much. It's like it kind of felt expected because Mitch is in really good shape, and it's showing on the court. So That was sick. Both of his blocks just showcased his undeniable length. Like first one, he just trapped Justin Edwards underneath and stuffed him. Second one, he tracked Grimes, got a solid hand on it in mid range, so that was nice. Also, just did a really nice work on screens all game. I thought he was all over the place, setting good screens. So just a vintage Mitch game and his best game of the season. Which talk about guys that are getting ramped up right before the playoffs to be their best selves. Mitchell Robinson definitely one of those, and I get the feeling the Knicks are going to have to lean on him. I mean, he's kind of built for playoff basketball, like tough interior defense and offensive rebounding and putbacks and stuff like that. That's staples when things tighten up a bit in the playoffs. So hopefully he's feeling really good and ready for the playoffs and all that. But speaking of guys that are hopefully getting ready for the playoffs, Landry Shamet, 20 points, 6 of 11 from 3 in 34 minutes. It's a super high minute total for him compared to what he normally plays. High 3-point made total, high point total, his season high of 20. A little overshadowed by Steph Curry, 12 3-pointers for Steph. Really disappointed he didn't break the record, by the way. It's crazy how many times Steph has gotten like 10 3-pointers in the first like 2 quarters of a game and then just not managed to break the 3-point record again. Maybe he's just deferring to his old teammate. I don't know. But either way, Landry Shamet, 8 points in the fourth, 14 in the second half. He bailed the Knicks out, I think, when they were trying to let go of the rope a little bit, when they were kind of, getting a little too lackadaisical. Shamet hit 2 really big threes at the end of the third quarter and then just kept it going in the fourth, had those 8 points in the fourth quarter as well. It was just a really well-balanced effort for him. A really great second half, obviously, but just hit 2 really nice quick trigger threes in the first half too. I didn't totally love the defense from him in this game. He got beat a number of times just off the dribble, which I feel like he definitely has better defense than that in him. So I hope that offensive success doesn't lead to defensive decline, because one nice thing that I liked when he wasn't shooting as well was that the defense wasn't really lacking at all. That he was, still, I think, being productive in his minutes, even when he was shooting like 1 of 6 from 3 or whatever, because he was still giving really consistent effort on the defensive end. Maybe, hopefully, this was just a case of the opponent, not being good. So that was kind of, affecting how he approached defense or whatever. But, hopefully we can get the best of both worlds soon. But the shooting was just fantastic. And again, if he can keep this up in the playoffs, that's going to be great for the Knicks, because come playoffs, like they're always looking for guys that can consistently hit the 3 in the playoffs, and they just, for the last couple of years, have not really had it. Like in the 2023 playoffs, obviously they had Brunson who could hit the 3, but when he was getting like triple teamed, they were kicking it to Grimes, and then Grimes was hitting like 25% of his threes, but was at least drawing people out to the 3-point line. Then obviously last year they had DiVincenzo, who had his ups and downs in the playoffs. So, but they've not really had like a guy that they can count on to just be like a bench guy that comes in and hits threes in the playoffs. I mean, they had Deuce hit some last year. I guess I don't want to take away from him, but being able to have a bench full of guys that can potentially hit the 3 is huge, and that sometimes is the difference maker for a game or even a whole series. So hopefully Shamet's kind of found that. DeLon Wright, another good spot start. 12 points, 4 assists, 3 steals, shot 4-7 from the field, 1 of 2 from 3. I kind of mentioned it already, but I thought the best thing was his chemistry with Mitch in this game. The Sixers at one point, my favorite, I already brought this one up, but Sixers tried to kind of trap him by the sideline off a pick and roll with Mitch, and then he just kind of stayed patient. Mitch leaked free, got completely wide open underneath the hoop, and then DeLon Wright was able to snake a pass in there to Mitch, and Mitch got a nice big open 2-handed dunk to throw it down Shaq style. So you love seeing that. Tyler Kolek, 7 points, 7 assists for him off the bench. Just continues to be very dynamic, passing the ball. His patience, waiting for the play for the play to develop, I think is almost unmatched on this team. I mean, we see it from Brunson at his best sometimes. We see it from Campaign sometimes, but I think Kolek just has such a nice patience to his game. Was helped out a lot on the assist total by Landry Shamet actually making all the looks, but played a big part in finding Landry Shamet in the shooting pocket during Shamet's run, particularly in the fourth quarter. Best assist to me for Kolek, he at one point gets inside, gets kind of trapped, and like has 3 Sixers kind of getting up and around him. He just held tight there, went up with a few pump fakes, just kept the defense honest long enough to then wait for Mikal Bridges to relocate to the corner, and then had his eye on it the whole time, like clearly knew exactly what Mikal was going to do, and was just buying himself time with those pump fakes, and then whips it out to Mikal in the corner. Nice, easy 3-pointer. I thought that was a really good look from Kolek. Really nice advanced stuff. And we love to keep seeing that kind of thing out of him. Speaking of Mikal, pretty nondescript game for him by his recent standards. I thought he gave Grimes hell on a number of possessions, though. He ended with 14 points, 4 assists for Mikal, but I thought that he did a good job on Grimes. Also, I noticed like on a few possessions, at least, the Knicks were a little more willing to make like early possession switches than usual, which was cool, depending on the lineup. So Mikal was kind of part of that as well. Like he would start the possession on Grimes, and then they would end up with OG on him, or sometimes even Shamet or Hard, or trying to think who I think DeLon Wright ended up on him once or twice. Like it was kind of cool. They were, I think, being a little more open to the idea of passing defensive assignments around. Precious Achua, rough game, 2 points, 9 boards, 1 of 11 from the field, 4 turnovers, 1 steal, 1 block. Just couldn't get a single shot to go in, but didn't really do himself any favors either. Like both Breen and Clyde remarked at one point that he had like a relatively open opportunity for like a little floater, like little baby hook shot, and decided to go up with his left hand instead of his right because he was kind of like dribbling left, and then just decided to finish the play off with his left hand. But he's a righty, and he could have easily gone up with his right and probably given the shot a way better chance of going in, because it did not come particularly close with his left hand. So didn't really do much to help himself there. Made a couple nice little defensive plays at least. He broke up a couple alley oops, which was cool. I would say just unfortunately though, like as much as I'm talking about a lot of guys playing themselves into the playoff rotation, and hopefully getting themselves ramped up. Unfortunately, I think we're seeing a little bit of regression from Precious. And he has just not been looking particularly great lately. I'm thinking he is probably, barring some issues with Cat or Mitch, he is probably on the outside looking in for the playoff rotation at this point. Finally, I'll just give a little bit of shine to Josh Hart too. 9.6 assists for him. He was the touch pass king early in this game. He made the last swing pass on 3 different possessions to get Mikal, OG, and Shamet open looks in the first half. So I love seeing that out of him. Had a really nice feed to a cutting Mikal for a layup at one point. Just a classic like Josh Hart at the top of the 3-point line, and then kept his eyes open. Mikal makes the cut, and Josh just put a perfectly placed pass right where he needed it to go up for a layup. And was pretty passive on offense in this game, but that's okay. He doesn't have to be. He was kind of letting others cook, and he was making the extra pass and stuff like that. So I didn't find this to be a particularly irksome passive game from Josh Hart, as some can be. But I think that's about all I got to say about this game. So again, really exciting news with Jalen Brunson, hopefully going to be back soon, and the Knicks looking pretty good, getting rolling, and took care of business against the tanking team, and we'll see if they can do the same against Cleveland in their next game. That's obviously going to be a much bigger test, so we'll see where that goes. But we'll be here for you and for everything else throughout the stretch of the season here on Locked On Knicks. But until next time, thank you all for listening, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace out, everybody.